look, Astrid, it's our favourite movie. We're watching our favourite movie together. It's my favourite part. Oh, isn't that such a great moment? Alright, that's enough of movie night. Let's go down to our 30-second recap. 2 races have passed since our last episode of This Week in Lionheart, both of which took place at Indianapolis. The first on the road course, the second on the oval. Both events were won by points leader Adam Blocker, with Connor Harrington being his closest challenger both times. On the road side, Connor was involved in a collision with a lapped car mid-race. The 500 was cleaner for the leaders, but not fully without drama, as a multi-car crash took place at the start. Well, that wreck was chaotic, it was devastating for a lot of drivers, but one thing that wreck was not was Paul Jenkins' fault. And to confirm that, I've got the man himself right here. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Sam, what's going on? Yeah, that was not my fault.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, unfortunately, it's because you're not in the IndyCar Series this season, but you're still over in Retro and Speedway, doing very good in Retro, I might add, because they did their Indy 500 recently, and you crossed the stripe in fourth.
I did. I kind of lucked into fourth, but I mean, have to thank a couple of guys for that. But yeah, that was a wild race. I tell you, I mean, I'm really enjoying the time in Retro. I think the things we're doing great there. We're putting on a great show, and that Indy was just like nuts at the last half of it. So yeah, had a great time.
And you're competing in the Speedway Series as well, and they have their Indy 500 coming up in a couple of weeks. How are you feeling about how the Speedway is going? Because that's the whole new season for Lionheart.
Well, I would use my term of competing loosely. I'm present. I've had some bad luck with the Speedway Series. Just some bad breaks. Yesterday's race, of course, we raced in Kentucky, and I've never been good at Kentucky. I don't know what it is about me and that track, but it just is not something that works out for me. So, the DW12 is kind of a cantankerous car to drive anyway, and the Kentucky Speedway is just difficult. So kudos to the guys that had it figured out. I mean, it was a good race, and I did pretty good at the beginning. I qualified poorly. I kind of held my own, but then I made a mistake on my second stop and got a 40-second penalty, and that was pretty much all she wrote. So, but hey, no cautions. So, I think that the Speedway Series as a whole is definitely making a lot more headway. We had a really rough start, and I think now the guys are starting to figure out the car and figure out the series and starting to understand how each other races. It's like anything. The series is going to mature. And I think we've seen a lot of that result yesterday in that race with, a track that was extremely difficult. And we all thought there was going to be a lot of cautions with that race. And it turns out it was completely clean. So everyone there is doing a great job of picking it up and making things work. And I think I'm really proud of everyone, even though I wasn't a part of the whole festivities. We kept it clean. So.
I've got to admit, I've been keeping half an eye on the Speedway Series this year because my work schedule's been a little bit crazy. And I've been thinking, well, if I can't run an IndyCar anymore, maybe I need to give Speedway or Retro a go. And I like you say, I've been hearing these race recaps where it's been like, oh, there was an ugly Speedway race. It was an ugly Speedway race. It sounds like you'll finally put on a clean show. So congrats for that. For what it's worth, Kentucky's never been my track either.
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So what are your goals going forward? Obviously, you're competing in Speedway and Retro right now. Your fourth place finish in Retro obviously bumped you up the points a little bit over there. Do you have any goals for the second half of the season? And where do you see yourself in 2022?
Well, I mean, the goal has always been to get better at road racing. That's not my strong suit. And Anna Blocker was kind enough to spend some time with me a little while ago, and we did some good work. And he really pointed out a very, very big hole that was in my road racing technique, and so that was extremely helpful. And I'm grateful to him to help me out and take the time out of his day to do that. And it really made a big difference. So I'm hoping to improve on my road performances. Obviously, I want to keep the strong showing with the oval performances. I feel really comfortable in the Retro with oval, and I think that if I can just try and I've got to break the ice. I got to get that win. I've always been so many times. I've been the bridesmaid, never the bride, and yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I broke the ice. You know, I kind of proved myself I could win. I won the iRacers for Mental Health Indy 500 last week or 2 weeks ago, and that was a big psychological win for me. It proved to me that, you know, I could put together a good race, and I had the speed, and I could do what I needed to do to be competitive. But I mean, retro in all of Lionheart is the best of the best. I mean, these guys, these are the elite. I think, honestly, and I've been doing this for a very, very long time on iRacing. And I have to say, these guys are the best of the best in iRacing. So to be able to hang with them at the front of the front of the group and make things happen is, it says a lot. It says a lot for anybody who can stay up there and make it happen and get good results with these. So, you know, racing is racing and things happen, but you know, the cream constantly rises to the top, and you know, the guys that can get it done and have good performances. And you know, I think that every year I'm getting better and better at racing. I'm getting better at my racecraft and strategy, and it's starting to pay off. I'm getting close. It's just a matter of time. So I think if I can just keep keep the faith and keep the speed up and try and stay clean, and that's really the biggest thing. I want to finish, but I want to finish first, and you got to balance the aggression and the conservatism, and make sure that you make the moves at the right time and not do something stupid. So, you know, it's a learning experience, and I'm just proud to be with these guys. You know, so.
You're right. It is a fine line between being aggressive and being conservative at times. On races where maybe you've gone a bit to the aggressive side, let's circle back to how we started this whole thing. Why is it always Paul Jenkins' fault?
Uh, I
Where's
think
that from?
I think this all started. I don't know what race it was, but I really just put my foot right in my mouth in the race, and I took someone out, and I did something stupid, and I immediately got on chat, and I just threw myself under the bus. It's like, yeah, that was totally me, guys. I'm totally sorry. It was my fault. And I don't know, Mark just kind of hitched his wagon on that, and so that was kind of the big joke, was anytime something happened, it was my fault. And I don't know, for a while it kind of was, but I look back at my IndyCar debut. It wasn't really the first race, but a couple races in, I was at Phoenix, and oh my gosh, I was hot mess over there. I spun, and I guess I tapped the wall barely with the rear and didn't know it. And the car drove fine, and I spun again. And
Hold on, is that when Bob Mikas hit you in the second spin?
Probably. I'm sure
Okay.
somebody nailed me.
Because I think I remember I was teammates with Bob at the time over Controlled Chaos, and I said, hey, because he had just made a strategy call to pit from the middle of the field and come to the back. And I said to Bob on the radio, hey, Paul brought out the last caution. I think he may be damaged. Watch out for him. And Bob was kind of right on your tail as you went through the turn and lost it. And I'm like, I tried to tell you, Bob.
I hated myself for that. You know, I wish you'd come on the radio and told me I was damaged, because I had no idea. I came out, I was like, hey, well, no repairs or anything. I'm like, yeah, we're good. I got away with it. No, I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I've been there too, and we'll get to this. Milwaukee's the home of the 17, right? The 17 cautions.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's where we go next, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I remember two of those were me. So it's happened to all of us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You haven't driven in Milwaukee till you've caused a caution. It just is the way of the beast. But you know, it's funny about Milwaukee too, because yellows are kind of unnecessary there. There's a lot of room to race, but there's not a lot of room to make moves. So you kind of have to turn it up to make things happen there. And that's where things get in trouble, especially now in the IR18, now that we have the in-car adjustments. And we saw that we saw that at Indy with the crash with who spun into the
Brian Carey.
It was Carey, that's right. I was thinking Rigney, but Rigney was a victim.
Yeah, I think what happened, I think what you're getting to here is he probably had the weight tracker high, because honestly, when the car was at full speed, I don't know if it was ideal to do it, but I was single car lapping in practice with a weight tracker at plus 20, and it was like handling okay. And so my guess is, and this is probably what you were about to say, that he had the weight tracker too high, and because we were only running at half speed, there wasn't any downforce pushing his car down yet.
Right. Yeah, I think he may have just gotten it, because it just looked like that started spinning just as soon as he got it into the corner. That back end just started tracking out, and that was that. And I mean, it kind of reminds me of several accidents over the years, was particularly Stan Fox and his crash was kind of the same deal where the car just started stepping out, and he dirt tracked most of it, and it just caught and just went straight into the wall. And it was a similar incident here. But yeah, and it pays to point out that this year with the IR18 and the adjustments in the car, it really does open up the possibility of making adjustments mid-race, and it really is super exciting to see guys adapt and make changes to the race. And I think back again to the 8500, that's what I was doing the whole thing. And I wanted to try and be very careful, but on the other hand, I had to make some moves, and it paid off. But having those adjustments is a big deal. And unfortunately, Speedway Series and the W12, we don't have those. That was been very useful for me in Kentucky, but you just kind of have to drive what you showed up with. And I think Andrew does a great job with all of these setups, and he does a fantastic job of making the cars competitive. But it just happens that the DW12, the way he sets it up, doesn't really suit my taste, and that's no fault of his. That's my job to get, to adapt. This is a fixed series. I gotta make it. I gotta figure it out. So, I think that this is one of those things where, a fixed series, you think, fixed series, it's easy, it's spec racing. Oh, no. I mean, you're talking about a lot of guys with a lot of different, ways of approaching driving. And some guys, you got it's all about making adjustments, and that's what makes this series so good. So
I asked you before we started recording if you'd been keeping up with the IndyCar series and what your thoughts were on it, and you pretty much said, yeah, Adam Blocker smoked to you all, and I'm like, yeah, he's been doing that a lot recently. I've got to imagine, I can tell in the background, you got a family, you got a lot going on. So I'm sure you're a busy individual, but you're saying you feel you're getting better as a racer. So let's just go ahead and throw the big question out here. Is your goal, and do you see yourself getting back into the IndyCar series?
well, I'll tell you what, I'm waiting for the invitation. And I definitely, if I'm invited to come back to IndyCar, I'd love to. This has always been my goal to race in the IndyCar. I had a great time when I was in there, and if I'm invited to come back, I will absolutely be thrilled to race IndyCar. But in the meantime, I'm having a blast in retro. I really, really am. And I'm trying to figure out the Speedway thing, and I'm sure I'll have a blast with it once I kind of figure it out. I have high hopes for the Indy 500. I've always been decent at that track. And I feel pretty confident that if I can get a decent, even if I can, the thing about Indy is it's such a long race. You can start midfield or in the back and make things happen. I started, I started fourth in the iRacing for Mental Health race, but we've seen guys start in the back. Look, Sage Karam started in the back in the real race, got seventh. It's all about strategy and making moves and making things work. So, anybody in the field can win the race, and that's true, very true of that race. And that's necessarily true of a lot of tracks where if you're mired in the back, you're fighting all day long, especially if they don't bother throwing cautions. So, I think that, but I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast with retro. I'm having a great time. I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, I'll jump at IndyCar in a heartbeat.
All right. Well, I always end these with a segment looking ahead to the next IndyCar Series race. We've already kind of brushed up on Milwaukee, and I must say you got a pretty decent finish there earlier this season in Speedway. You got 11th. We already kind of mentioned Milwaukee. Will you be watching that race? And what do you think we're going to see?
Chaos. We're going to see chaos.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think I'll be watching that race for sure. But Milwaukee is always a very peculiar track, and it's funny because traditionally, of course, it follows the Indy 500, and it is so radically different. So it was kind of fun to watch. These guys have to completely switch gears. It's basically like a road course with nothing but left turns because it's so flat. And especially now that these guys can make adjustments to the jacker and everything, you got to be super, super careful of tire management and ensuring that you don't get over aggressive and overwork those tires, because then you're really going to fall behind. So it's really, Milwaukee is a finesse race. You got to really choose how aggressive you're going to be or how passive you're going to be and what your strategy is going to be, because you can really get yourself in serious trouble if you get too aggressive. But on the other hand, if you sit back and wait for things to happen, that's not necessarily how it works there. It's such a short track. Suddenly you're a lap down, So, but that many cars on a short track has always been a great show, and I expect that it's going to be a great show, in the next round, and I'm really looking forward to watching it. But yeah, I watch the IndyCar guys. I try and follow along. It's a lot of work to try and prepare for the retro and speedway races, but I'll occasionally strap on the IndyCar and go and run around with these guys just to get a feel for what's going on. If I end up talking with others about what I think, like for instance this, at least it gives me some insight as to, all right, what are these guys really dealing with? So yeah, but you're in for an exciting race, Milwaukee. It's going to be, there's gonna be some cautions, there's going to be some shenanigans, but I think at the end of the day, we're looking at a pretty good show here.
Yeah, well, honestly, what we're dealing with, Paul, in the IndyCar Series is just trying to keep up with Adam Blocker.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's the Adam Blocker show. You can't stop an Adam Blocker. You can only hope to contain him. And, but hey, there's a lot of talent there. And Adam Blocker is great, but he's not infallible. And even the greats make mistakes. So that's when you capitalize and do the thing. So like I say, we got a lot of good drivers in there. So.
Well, we've had 2 out of 3 Lionheart Indy 500s already this season. Paul got 4th in one. I got to lead 4 laps in one. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah, it was a great moment. Who knows what's going to happen in the Speedway Indy 500 in a couple of weeks? I'll wish you the best of luck in that, Paul. Got my fingers crossed that I stay out of the chaos at Milwaukee in the IndyCar Series, and we'll see where it goes going forward. But thanks for coming here and talking to us.
Sam, always a pleasure. I appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys later.
Absolutely. We'll see you all around.